where the Indian team has announced its 15-man squad. And to analyze this and a lot more, joining us now is our sports editor, Bcci Singh. Bcci, thanks for joining us. What do you make of the announcements? Any surprises there? We know KL Rahul has made the cut. He has been given the fitness certificate.
Well, very expected team. No left field surprise, a bit like what we saw at the Ryder Cup last night. But this is a very settled team. In fact, I was presuming that once the team for the Asia Cup came out, that was a 17-member squad. And I was expecting 2 players to come out of that to make the final team. Obviously, the Asia Cup, both matches were weather affected. The India-Pakistan game got sort of washed out. But that also showed us why Ishan Kishan has made the team. You spoke about KL Rahul. His fitness is a concern. But we are hearing from Ajit Agarkar, the chairman of selectors, that he's okay, he's ready to go. But the big call which will happen during the World Cup is, do India go with KL Rahul or with Ishan Kishan as their wicket-keeper? The rest of the team on expected lines. The one surprise for me is the inclusion of Suryakumar Yadav, because he's the #1 batter in T20 internationals. He's not been able to sort of translate that form into one-day cricket, but the fact that he's been around for so long, they've kept him in that 15.
Right, absolutely. Let's talk about the upcoming World Cup. We know the last time that India played host was in 2011, and since then there's been a jinx and India hasn't won. All fans want to know, will that jinx be broken this year?
Well, India go in as one of the favourites. There's no denying home advantage plays a huge part. Because India won in 2011, that's a World Cup they co-hosted with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Australia won in 2015, a tournament they co-hosted with New Zealand. In fact, both the co-hosts were in the finals. And then England hosted last time in 2019 and England won the World Cup. So if that trend has to be taken into account, then India do start as one of the favourites. But having said that, the big worry for Indian cricket is since 2013, the Indian cricket team has not won a major ICC final. And that boils down not as to how you play in the group stages, but how you approach the business end of the tournament, which is usually the semi-final or the final. Having said that, you look at this squad, this is a very experienced squad. A lot of these members in this team have played consistently across formats for a long time. And on paper, this squad can win the World Cup. But we all know that cricket matches aren't decided by who's good on paper. It depends on how good they play on that day at that moment.
Right. Bcci, you say this is an experienced squad. It looks good on paper. Any particular player or players rather that you would be watching out for?
Well, I think the onus is on the 2 or 3 most experienced players in this squad. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, this is probably going to be their last World Cups, especially in the 50-over format. And perhaps you never know if the selectors have already moved on from them in the other smaller format, which is the T20 World Cup. I think if you ask me which are the players I'm excited about, then I think what I saw from Ishan Kishan in that match against Pakistan on Saturday, the match we built up that day and watched together, that player, a left-handed player at #5 is promising. And again, Jasprit Bumrah, the way he sort of shapes up, because remember, he hasn't played a one-day international for India in over a year. He couldn't bowl in both the matches. The Pakistan game got rained out in the Asia Cup, and the second game against Nepal, which India won yesterday, he missed that game as well because he flew back home for the birth of his first child. So these 3 players are key. The other players who could play a huge role for India, in my opinion, are Kuldeep Yadav, the Chinaman bowler, because spin will come into play in India, and he's a wicket-taking bowler. He's the kind of bowler who goes for runs, but he has the knack for getting wickets. And I think India will expect a lot from Hardik Pandya, because a proper all-rounder at that level, when you have, can win the game, both bat and ball. Pandya's that man.
Right, Bcci, as expected, there's a lot of buzz on social media since the press conference took place. There are a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to take some of these questions. Who is going to be the preferred wicket-keeper, KL Rahul or Ishan Kishan?